Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into something pretty wild. We're going to challenge the one thing we all trust the most, our own intellect. I mean, what if the very tool that builds entire civilizations is also the one that could tear them all down? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big question that really frames this whole discussion. And it's a powerful one for sure. It kind of forces you to stop and, really rethink what our intellect is all about. So think about it. On one hand, our intellect, it's the engine behind all our greatest achievements. We're talking science, arts, medicine, the good stuff. But then you flip the coin, and it's also the architect of our absolute worst acts. War, division, wrecking the planet. Both sides, the incredible good and the terrible bad, are driven by the exact same tool. And that, right there, is a huge paradox. So how in the world do we solve a puzzle like that? Well, the key, according to our source material, is to understand what the intellect really is. See, we think of it as the driver, but it's not. It's more like the vehicle. It's a super powerful tool for this thing called manifestation. And manifestation, that's the word we really need to focus on here. You can think of it like a bridge. It's what takes something from the non-physical world, a thought, a belief, an emotion, and actually brings it into our physical reality. It's basically the how behind, well, everything we do. Okay, so here's the crucial point. The intellect, it's only step 2 in a 3-step process. Something else comes first, a force, a desire, a vision. Then the intellect kicks in. It's like the master planner that figures out the how-to. It executes the order, but it doesn't write the order. And that is a huge distinction to make.
Right, and that obviously leads to the next big question, doesn't it? If our brain is just the tool, let's say it's the hammer, then who or what is swinging it? Where are these driving forces, these intentions, actually coming from in the first place?
Well, the source material breaks these forces down into 2 main types. First, you've got your intellectual forces. These are the ones that come from inside the brain. You see an ad for a new phone and bam, you suddenly want it. Or you feel hungry and your brain plans how to get food. Simple enough. But then there are the spiritual forces. These are the ones that feel like they come from outside the brain. We're talking about that gut feeling, that sudden aha moment of pure inspiration, or just a deep-seated intuition that you absolutely can't shake. Okay, and this right here is where we get to the absolute core of the problem being presented. Our modern world, it's become dangerously, seriously imbalanced. We are living in an age that is dominated almost completely by those forces from inside the brain, the purely intellectual ones. I mean, just look at education and science. Our whole system is built on what's tangible, right? What you can measure and prove physically. And anything that falls outside of that box, anything you might call spiritual or intuitive, well, it usually gets dismissed or just completely ignored. And we see the exact same pattern in our laws and our governments. Most societies today are built on secular, human-made philosophies. And even ideas that started with really deep spiritual roots, think about something like the 10 Commandments, they've been so filtered and reinterpreted by the intellect over the years that their original spirit can get pretty watered down. Our social lives, too, have shifted big time. We've been guided by these intellectual fields like sociology and psychology, and the focus has moved away from, say, duty-based obligations that span generations to something much more individual. Now it's all about the pursuit of personal fulfillment and our own emotional satisfaction. And hey, even organized religion isn't immune to this. Think about it. Sacred texts are always filtered through the intellect of interpreters, and their own thoughts, their own emotions, their personal biases can't help but shape the message. And as we know from history, this can sometimes lead to some truly devastating consequences that are a million miles away from the original spiritual intent. So when you see this total domination by the intellect across, well, pretty much every part of our lives, the problem feels enormous, right? You start to wonder, how could we possibly begin to restore any kind of balance between the intellectual and the spiritual? I mean, the solution would have to be something absolutely monumental, wouldn't it? Well, what's so surprising is that the solution proposed isn't some huge, complicated system. Nope. Instead, it's something incredibly simple, something that's accessible to every single one of us, every single day. The answer is in the words we use, it's in our language. The idea is that by simply getting reacquainted with the true, inherent power that's locked inside the words we speak every day, we can actually start to shift that balance back. Now, check out the distinction this next part makes, because this is really interesting. When we try to influence someone, what are we really doing? We're pushing our own ideas. We create followers who might just copy us without getting any real insight for themselves. But when we truly help someone, we're guiding them to find their own way. We're fostering independence, self-examination, and real inner growth. The words sound similar, right? But the force behind them is completely, totally different. And let's bring this down to a super simple everyday example. The phrase, good morning. Most of the time, it's just a greeting we say on autopilot, right? But when it's spoken with a genuine, sincere desire for another person's well-being, it actually becomes a spiritual force. And that force directs our intellect, our tool, to interact with compassion. It builds connections. It fosters altruism, all from two little words. And all of this brings us to a final, really powerful warning from the author. Because in this view, language isn't just a tool for communication, it's something way more profound. It's seen as a sacred responsibility. So the quote here says that the ability to form words is this sublime gift, a great grace that's been bestowed upon us. And with a gift that big comes an immense responsibility. It says we're supposed to work in creation with our language. And to mess with that gift, to trifle with it, is to actually harm ourselves. That is a heavy charge. It's asking us to recognize that every single word we speak helps to shape our reality. We are, quite literally, speaking our world into existence. And so, that leaves us with one final, pretty challenging thought to chew on. If every word we speak isn't just communication, but an actual act of creation, a force that guides our most powerful tool, the intellect, then what kind of world are you choosing to build right now, starting with your very next sentence?